We're going to break down ADay. Rodney, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing well myself. Pretty day and enjoying it so far. And we sat there in the press box and watched the game on Saturday as the white team beat the Crimson 31-7, the first team defense over the first team offense. And I, for the most part, enjoyed the game. I mean, I thought it was a good game to watch. I thought it was clean for the most part. I am concerned about the running game a little bit in terms of what I saw there and the need for improvement. But overall, I thought it was a good-looking bunch of football players, for the most part, executing pretty well. What was your takeaway from it?
Well, I thought it was basically what I thought going in, Jerry. I thought we would see a lot of youth out there, obviously on the defensive side, a lot of athletic players on that side of the ball, potential. I think we saw a lot of that. I thought on the offensive side, again, you had a couple of offensive linemen. Obviously, Jedrick Wills did not play. Womack was a little bit banged up. So you had a lot of shuffling also going on the offensive line. You saw Chris Owens at center, but then you saw Emil Ekiyor come in and played the center spot, flipped from guard to center, and Owens flipped over to guard. So there was a lot of kind of movement going on up front, some experimentations. But again, we saw a lot of exciting young players on the offensive side of the ball, namely John Mechie at wide receiver, who was named the most valuable player of the game. And I thought Xavier Williams is another young receiver that showed pretty well. And Terrell Shavers made a couple of grabs. Miller Forrestall getting involved a little bit at the H-back position, tight end. And so I saw a lot of good things.
Yeah, everybody always wants to know about the quarterbacks, and we'll start with Tua because I watched the game, and I can be tough on quarterbacks, Rodney. I said this earlier, and it's true. I didn't really notice anything. I thought he played fine in the game. I guess the completion percentage, you'd like it to be a little bit higher, 19 of 37, just a little bit over 50%, but he threw for 265 yards, one pick, one touchdown. I didn't notice anything out of the ordinary to me. But then after the game, I start reading and hearing how people said he didn't play well and didn't look like he had as much zip on his balls. I can only speak for myself. I didn't notice anything out of the ordinary. And I did, so we never really talked about it that much in the press box. But now that you look back on it, did you have anything that you saw from Tua that made you think that he wasn't the same Tua that we'd seen for most of his career?
Well, first of all, there were several that he had that were dropped. So obviously he would have done better, statistically performed better if those drops would have been caught. So that was one thing. And I thought there were a couple of throws that probably, Tua looked a little bit, the timing might not have quite been there down the field, that he had a guy that might have been, fairly decently covered, but, the throw was just an inch or two off the fingertips. And again, that's nitpicking. But, first of all, the guy's human. I mean, I don't get these fans. I don't get some of the media people too, by the way, that, every little thing that he does is, it's kind of, if he doesn't do the impossible every time out, it's like, he fell a little bit short. And maybe that's because of the way he started against Georgia in that national championship game. But, I thought, I'm like you, Gary. I mean, again, he probably wasn't the sharpest he's ever been, but, how many guys on ADay usually are? I mean, it's just a spring game, and that's the way it happened, and I thought he played, pretty well.
On the other side, and this did surprise me, and I guess this is a testament to the kind of football that Mac Jones plays, a little bit understated, but for the second straight year, he had huge numbers in the ADay game, 19 of 23 for 271 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. I looked at the stat sheet, and I think you and I commented on it. I didn't realize he'd thrown for 271 yards, but a nice outing for Mac Jones.
Yeah, I mean, I was like 19 of 23. I didn't, had no idea until, like you said, we looked at the statistics afterwards, and I was a little surprised. But, yeah, he made some nice throws, a couple of throws down the field, hit Mechie on that one down the field. So I thought that for him, that was a great way to finish spring practice and kind of propel you into the off season and into the the summer workouts and into fall camp. I think that's a great confidence builder for Mac Jones. And hey, let's say this too, though, Gary, about the offense. And Tua made note of this. I know in a story we had on TigerInsider.com that they were really limited what they did offensively. They only had 2 or 3 run plays, as according to Tua. And so they really, it was pretty much a plain vanilla offense. And even Nick Saban said, look, we didn't go out there with a game plan showing what we're going to necessarily do for our opponents to be able to scout this game. So I think that offensively they were pretty plain.
There weren't many wow plays on the day. I thought the Kedrick James touchdown was a nice play where he caught the ball down the sideline at that size and showed you why they're so high on his potential. I thought the one play, though, that really stood out in the game was Talia Tagovailoa rolling to the left, throwing back against his body, and throwing a perfect pass to Waddle for a touchdown. It was a play where you said, wow, I did anyway. And, he did some other things too, but I think Talia showed again that like Tua, he has some exceptional skills. He's got to refine them and hone them. But that play was one of those where not that many guys, I think, can make that play, but he did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think both you and I looked at each other and said, wow, as I recall. And, yeah, that was probably as good a throw as I've seen at Bryant-Denny Stadium, Gary. I mean, that was – and, again, I understand it's a scrimmage and all of that, and, he wasn't live, but still, I mean, he flushed out of the pocket, and he made a throw that was a dart. And I don't know if it was about 30, 35 yards, and it was on a line, and it was the only place it could be caught. And Jalen Waddle made a fantastic catch there in the end zone. And it wasn't bad coverage, really. It was just an extremely well-thrown ball. Thought that was very impressive. I thought his first throw, when Chris Allen was in his face, he got that ball out of his hand on that slant to Mechie so quickly. It was amazing. Lightning quick release. And then, of course, he had the interception. Eddie Smith made a nice play on that ball. Probably should not have been thrown, but never saw the safety coming across. But I think that Talia has a lot of tools. I mean, you can see him scrambling around down there. You can see why some people have said, hey, he's got a little bit of Russell Wilson in him, So I thought you could see those things and certainly the potential that he has.
I know, as you said, it was vanilla, and as Coach Saban pointed out to us astute members of the media, I don't, I want everybody to see our game plan for the fall, but the white team ran the ball for 32 yards net, 1.3 yards average per rush, and the crimson team ran it for 13 yards net, 0.6 yards per attempt. Now, in fairness, the sack yards took away from that a lot, but still, the running game seemed to be lacking in that scenario. How concerned are you about that?
Well, at this point, not at all. The reason is I think it was the year Derrick Henry won the Heisman Trophy, and that go back and look at the ADay rushing totals from that spring. It wasn't very good. It wasn't much different than what it is now, maybe a little higher. I don't know. Something in the same range anyway. And he went out and ran for 2,200 and how many ever yards. He had 19 and all those touchdowns and won the Heisman Trophy. So not right now, I'm not really concerned about it here. I do think that obviously it's an area where, and even Nick Saban pointed it out, that they have to improve and they want to be able to run the ball better on a more consistent basis and be able to run inside and all of those things. So I think, that is certainly an area that they're going to be focusing on improving. But again, I don't think the offensive line was solidified, as we mentioned earlier. And, things go on and, they only had a couple of running plays, as we mentioned. The defense kind of knows what the offense is going to do in a lot of ways, a lot of those plays. So not really concerned at this point.
Defensively, I'm encouraged. I really liked what I saw from the secondary on both the first and second team defense. I thought some of those young defensive linemen flashed. I remember Kristen Barmore making a couple of plays, Anoma coming off the edge. Of course, you got some veteran guys. At inside linebacker, I thought Shane Lee had a really nice game. He stood out. Again, you got an entire fall camp to get the team ready to play, but defensively, I'm encouraged. Are you?
Yes, I like the young defensive linemen. Of course, I thought Fedarian Mathis and DJ Dale inside.
Sure,
that's going to be an interesting duo of players to watch. Tavita Masika is another guy that we never mentioned. He's still there too, and I thought number 91 showed a couple of flashes. Also, and just think about this, and kind of getting a little bit ahead. You've got Ishmael Sopsher coming in June, so he'll certainly be a big interior guy, along with Byron Young, another defensive lineman, and Braylon Ingram, a third defensive lineman in this class that'll be coming in late. But Yeah, very impressed. You mentioned Christian Barmore. I thought he showed a lot of quickness, can be disruptive. He put a really big hit on Jerome Ford. Jerome kept his balance amazingly on the play, but it was certainly a fierce hit, and showed some quickness. He showed some pass rush ability. And listen, now he was going up against Deontay Brown. He's pretty good. I thought Christian Barmore did a really good job. A lot of promise with those guys. You mentioned Shane Lee. Josh McMillan seemed to be doing well, carrying out his assignments. Seemed to have the tight end covered most of the time, and but I thought Shane Lee did stand out at times. And Jayla Moody had the pick six. And in the secondary, I just think there's a lot of talent there. It appeared to me with all these receivers that Alabama has that we know are extremely talented, these DBs get a good workout. I mean, they get challenged, and I thought they really kind of stepped up and played pretty well.
Kicking game-wise, our last question on the game itself. Reichard punted and place kicked. Of course, Bovis place kicked. Skylar DeLong punted. Bernier, we saw him punt a couple of times. I thought we saw some good things from the kickers and punters out there. Still room for improvement, but particularly for Skylar DeLong, who had a rough start to his career. I thought he bounced back nicely, and Reichard hit one punt that, as you said to me, it hung up in the air forever.
Yeah, it was a great punt. If he could hit those like that all the time, man, he'd be fantastic, and it just kind of shows his potential. And I thought Skylar DeLong, I think you mentioned that, I thought he punted the ball much better than what we saw last year. Obviously, as we talked about, had a little bit of stage fright as a true freshman, but I thought he looked much more comfortable out there. He hit most of his really, really well. So I was encouraged by those two guys, some of the things that they showed. And then I thought that Reichard hit that ball really well on that, what was it, a 43-yard field goal? Thought he hit it really, really well on that one. So, I know that they obviously want to continue to get better there, and fall camp has certainly answered a lot of the questions.
All right, Rodney, we're running out of time, but now to the post game. Coach Saban with a rather colorful press conference afterwards, but I think the big announcement was the one he held for the end, that he's been having some hip issues. He's going to get it taken care of, but I thought that the statement that will make Alabama fans very happy was, I don't want to coach for just one more year. I want to coach for a lot of years, so I want to get this taken care of. That's discussed often. How much longer will he coach? But he certainly doesn't sound like a man who's planning on giving it up anytime soon, does he?
No, he really not to me. Of course, you never really know, but there are some out there that still maintain. He says that in a press conference, but what does his future, really look like in terms of longevity? And but I looked at him on Saturday, and I saw a guy that still looks youthful for his age, even though he has this hip issue that he wants to go ahead and get taken care of. But I thought he looked very good. I thought he looked energetic. I know that probably some of those sound bites that came across on TV made him look angry, but I thought he was actually pretty funny and laid back.
He was kidding a little bit, yeah.
I thought, Gary, I really thought he kind of came across to me as being, for Nick Saban, pretty pleased with what he's seen this spring. I'm
with you. All right, I know a lot of your members are pleased with what they see at TiderInsider.com every day of the year, and it's still not hard to become a part of the community. And the great thing I think about it is that, unlike a lot of these sites, you're just $48 a year.
$48 a year. That's just $4 a month. What is that? 16, 18 cents a day, Gary? Need to break that down.
Yeah,
it's not very much. It's just not very much.
Even I can afford it, so that's a good thing. Also, follow Rodney on Twitter at Tider Insider. Thanks, Rod.
Okay, buddy. Take care.